I guess this is a random thought about, or set of random thoughts anchor on the idea that this extreme way of living, of just limiting your consumption, even things that you might normally think are good, for example, learning really hard subjects about, I don't know, math or physics or whatever. You just don't do that. You don't focus on that. You just focus on producing, and that's a weird thing. I mean, it's not something I've ever done before, so it's very unusual. It's hard to get out of the habit of just wanting to, oh, let's look this up, or let's see how we could use these resources. Or I want to create a story, but instead of creating a story, or instead of remembering or claiming I don't remember how a story works, what is a story, and trying to recall that, and if I can't recall it, to build it up some other way is very interesting. I think it'll fall apart in many different ways, but does it really even matter? I think part of creativity and what I'm exploring is like, if you do this, if you just restrict yourself as much as possible, what can you actually create? Is the output way better? So I think now that I think about this, I'm leaning more and more towards limiting even more. So I think I'll start. I think this is the right balance of, I will try using the LLMs for certain things like coding things that I want. I'll just write, but I won't. I thought I was gonna use the LLM for brainstorming a lot more, but I think I'm gonna limit that. Even rhymes, and like I could use it to come up with words or fix my spelling and grammar, but I'm not gonna do that. I think a better approach is gonna be to see how I write code with it and without it, to do maybe attempts when I'm not using it to write my code, and then use it to write my code. I think I'll probably be somewhere in the middle and have to create a structure and see what works for me. But back to the idea of creativity emerging from restriction, I think this is going to be great because even though I feel really restricted, like, oh, I can't go through the um, Nature of Code book where I really love some of the ideas in that book, and um, I think it'll be a balance between, because right now, even though I had a goal at one point of going through the book and doing the exercises really diligently, and I'm just, it's not something I do that well. I go through some of them, maybe maybe read the book and skim it, and there's always something I've done. I think I'm trying to change that, and I'm getting better at it, especially with Haskell, where I've been reading books on Haskell and watching lectures more slowly, and trying to take the Miyagi, like on, wax off approach. And so um, with the Nature of Code and coding math videos, I think I've been not applying it enough. There's been periods of time when I would do like a couple of days of research. Like, let's say, I think I did some stuff with shaders, and I don't know anything about shaders, but I learned enough, and then I applied it. And so now I'm doing a more extreme version of that, where there's no real deadline for a product or a goal for a product. It's just like a 2 day thing. But then, and I was also working then, so I didn't have that much time, and I didn't restrict my consumption. I've thought about restricting my consumption for a long time, but I was always afraid of, for one, getting depressed, two, not doing anything, and how to balance it with work. But now that I have complete control for a little short while, I can choose and make that choice completely. So I never tried this before full on. And I'm leaning more and more towards letting creativity kind of win. Let's say I don't remember how vectors work exactly. I can just either try to work around it or note it as something I want to research. And then as comes time, I research it, or maybe have the LLM for V1, just write the code and I just understand it and actually use it. But I want to try to lean away from that as much as possible. I want to actually, for example, try to derive from as much as I can remember, even if I get the formulas wrong for gravity and for all these things, I can kind of picture them, and I think it'll make learning them much more impactful once I do relearn them. And some formulas I won't memorize. I'll just have to be okay with referencing them, like the fluid one. But even that one, I think I could probably remember that most of the constant terms don't matter. Um, but I think this exercise, I think it's probably going to be very, very helpful in creativity. Maybe not in learning as much as possible, as quickly as possible, but in applying what I learned. And that's my guiding principle: how to be more creative and apply what you learn, how to actually output, how to actually get away from just wanting to amass insane amounts of knowledge without putting it out there somehow. And I've always been terrible at that. I've been okay at consuming, and even then, I never fully applied the learning how to learn concepts until more recently, where I was doing a little bit more of that because of the Haskell book where they talk, or the class where he talks about you gotta do wax on, wax off, even if you think it's dumb. It's just like the way to actually internalize and learn things. And just the idea of recalling an illusion of knowledge, I think this will push me towards actually knowing where my holes really are and how maybe sometimes it's okay, it doesn't matter that much. I can work around them and I can find different ways to entertain myself and to produce things.